Hello, my loves. Today we get to read the most amazing book. It's called Elizabeth Leads the Way, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and the Right to Vote, written by Tanya Lee Stone, illustrated by Rebecca Gibbon. I love Tanya Lee Stone. We've read one of her other books, The House That Jane Built. And what I love especially about Tanya Lee Stone is she takes famous women who were real, who are or were real people and accomplished many things. And she writes about them in beautiful narrative nonfiction stories. And so what that means, because we've read a lot of narrative nonfiction because I love it, she tells true facts, but in the form of a story. So it's much more interesting to read and wonderful. I love Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She's one of my own personal heroes, and I hope you enjoy this book. It starts with a quote from Elizabeth Cady Stanton herself. "We do not expect our path will be strewn with the flowers of popular applause, but over the thorns of bigotry and prejudice will be our way." What would you do if someone told you you can't be what you want because you are a girl? What would you do if someone told you your vote doesn't count, your voice doesn't matter because you are a girl? Would you ask why? Would you talk back? Would you fight for your rights? Elizabeth did. All of these things used to be true back when Elizabeth Cady was a girl. All of these things might still be true today if Elizabeth hadn't led the way. She was only 4 years old the first time she heard someone, a woman, say life was better for boys. The woman had come to visit Elizabeth's new baby sister. What a pity it is she is a girl. How could anyone look at a little baby girl and feel sad? What could be wrong about being a girl? She was 13 years old when her father, Judge Caddy, told the woman whose husband had died the farm she'd spent her whole life working on would be taken from her. Without a husband, the law stated nothing belonged to her. Elizabeth was horrified at this unfairness. She said that the law should be cut out of every book. Judge Caddy told her that wouldn't change anything. The law was still the law, and only men were allowed to change laws. Preposterous. She decided right then and there that she could do anything any boy could do. She jumped over high hurdles on horseback. She rafted across a raging river. Do you hear the literary technique that's being used there? She jumped over high hurdles on horseback. She rafted across a raging river. You know I'm a sucker for some good alliteration. She won a prize for being the best in Greek studies. Her father was proud, but he worried about his strong-spirited, rule-breaking daughter. You should have been a boy. He knew how much easier her life would be, but Elizabeth wasn't interested in easy. At 16, since colleges would not let girls in, Elizabeth begged her father to send her to a girls' school to continue her learning. So while most ladies were getting married, washing dishes, doing laundry, and having babies, Elizabeth was studying religion, math, science, French, and writing. Several years later, Elizabeth Cady met Henry Stanton. He was an abolitionist speaking out against slavery. He understood how unfair it was for people to not have rights or power. An abolitionist is somebody who fought or fights against slavery. We read all about that when we read Before She Was Harriet. He did not laugh when Elizabeth talked about freedom. He did not laugh when Elizabeth said all people should be able to live life the way they choose. And he did not laugh when she told him she would add his name to her own, but would not give up hers just to marry him. So Elizabeth Cady became Elizabeth Cady Stanton and had babies, cooked meals, washed dishes, mended clothes, and did laundry. She loved her babies, but she did not love cooking and dishes and mending and laundry. One day, her friend Lucretia Mott invited her to a lunch. Lucretia had always shared Elizabeth's ideas about the values, about the things women could do and would do if only they had the right. The other women at lunch shared them too. Elizabeth got fired up. She proposed they hold a meeting. A meeting that would gather together lots and lots of women from all around to talk. But what would they talk about? There were so many things that needed to be set straight. Married women couldn't own property or even the money they worked to earn. Elizabeth had learned long ago that only men could change laws because only men could vote. That was it. That was the one thing that could change everything. If women could vote, they could help change all kinds of laws. This idea was so shocking, so huge, so daring. Elizabeth's friends gasped out loud. If they were flabbergasted, what would other people think? Elizabeth did not waver. She knew voting was the only way to make a difference. Her battle cry for the right to vote rang out. Have it we must, use it we will. Even her Henry thought she had gone too far. So that just goes to show you how crazy of an idea it was back then. If all these people who are just like Elizabeth Cady Stanton in their views of equality are shocked about the idea of women voting. But on July 19th, 1848, when Elizabeth arrived at the meeting place, she saw for herself that she hadn't. The small church in Seneca Falls, New York, was filled with hundreds of people. Elizabeth read aloud what she and a few of the women had written together. Their declaration of rights and sentiments challenged the idea from the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal. When she finished, she looked into the faces of the crowd and waited. The room was silent. Then a rumbling began. It grew louder and louder and louder as people argued whether or not women should be allowed to vote. Word of the meeting spread like wildfire. Newspapers across the country scolded Elizabeth for her boldness, but other women joined in her battle. The idea of women having the right to vote began to buzz in the ears of people from Maine to California. Elizabeth had tossed a stone into the water, and the ripples grew wider and wider and wider. Many said Elizabeth must be stopped, but she was unstoppable. She changed America forever. There's an awesome author's note for us, too. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, born 1815, died 1902, was married to Henry Stanton for 46 years and raised 7 children. Throughout this time, she worked tirelessly for women's rights. She even ran for Congress in 1866. She reasons that although she could not vote for men, men could still vote for her. In 1869, she and Susan B. Anthony created the National Women's Suffrage Association. Elizabeth served as president for 21 years. She never limited herself to championing only women's right to vote. She was passionate about girls' sports, property, and child custody rights for women, coeducation, equal wages for women, reforming divorce laws, abolition, and more. Elizabeth's daughter, Harriet Stanton Blanche, followed in her mother's footsteps. In 1907, Harriet organized the Equality League of Self-Supporting Women. On Elizabeth's 80th birthday, more than 6,000 people poured into the Metropolitan Opera House in New York City to celebrate. She was honored as the Grand Old Woman of America, and for that year, Stanton Day was declared. In 2006, New York State made it a permanent official holiday. Elizabeth Cady Stanton died on October 26, 1902. It took 18 more years after her death for women to get the right to vote. The 19th Amendment went into effect in August 1920. It was Elizabeth who had gotten the ball rolling. We owe her a huge thank you for her efforts towards this triumph. The end. And you can even go and visit the Seneca Falls where they had this huge important meeting, and I have been, and it's amazing, and I highly recommend it. Okay, take care. Love you. Bye.